Okay, guys, today we've got Will Harris from Residential Grading and Septic, and we're going to talk about marketing, customer service, and septic tanks. Stay tuned.
Hey, this is Liz, and you're listening to the SouthCack Syndicate podcast.
What's up, Kyle?
What's up? Jared, Mr. Ketterman in the house. Special guest this week, Will Harris. We're talking shit.
Literally, and grading.
We're going to be talking all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But that was kind of my little pun on the deal, right? Talking shit.
You're done.
You got to start off with that.
Yeah, so Will and I have known each other since, I don't know, Will was born. I'm just a few years older than he is, and then, life gets in the way, and we take a gap of probably 20 years.
Yeah.
And then the tour bus backs in to play a show in Clemson.
Spatuno.
And out of nowhere, Will brings me a radiator hose.
Well, your dad comes over there to me. He goes, "Man, we got a Lincoln radiator hose." And I said, well, "Show me what you got, and I'll see what I can do." Go over there, and it was just the clamp was busted.
And we just drove 960 miles.
I was there.
I didn't know. And Will just come up to me and says, "Hey, man, fix your hose. Great to see you, brother." I'm like, "Huh?" What happened?
Well, your dad was all on it.
I didn't know any of this was happening. Yeah. So it was crazy. But that was the first time I've seen Will in 20 years. And then we kept up on Snapchat and social media, as everybody does. And so we're honored to have Will Harris in the house.
Will's he's a go-getter. He's one of those, like, he don't talk, he does. Or at least from afar, that's kind of what I see.
Yeah, and if you're not following...
I'm glad I got you all fooled.
Well, if you're not following on Snapchat, he loves to brag about his work because he's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Hey.
But,
Hey.
I mean, listen, I know Will back from the pulling days. It goes back to like hot rod and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was in the pulling stuff. I was not in the diesel side, but we kind of had that mutual thing. I think I modified some stuff for you at one point.
Delivery valves.
Yeah, I had no idea.
He's like, "You're going to do what?" I was like, "Just do this, do this." Okay.
He's like, "Here, let me show you a picture. You think you can turn these into that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I can." Mm-hmm. Like, all right. So
did it work?
Believe so.
Okay.
Can't remember. I've slept since then.
Good. And so Will's been a fan of the podcast for a minute, and he reaches out and says, "Hey, let's do a show together." And Kyle and I are both, and without hesitation, come on.
Well, let's get something straight. Y'all did Chris May. You had him on the podcast.
We did.
And he did tell y'all that I got him lost at KOH, right?
Chris did.
That is what he said. Yep.
He said that he was blaming it on me. Mm-hmm. Well, do you want the real truth?
Of course. Mm-hmm. We're going to with this.
Do tell.
I mean, we're talking shit today, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Chris is a cheap ass, and he will buy the bottom. If it's not important, like shocks or tires, he's buying the bottom of the line. So he buys the bottom of the line iPad that's got lead nav on it, and the lowest version, if you go slow enough, the screen flips. So when you're going across rocks, that thing it'll just flip because it thinks the
it's
direction.
Upside down. Yeah.
So we come pulling into the pits and have to do a 180 to come over to our guys to get a tire changed. So we come into the pits, and as we're coming into the pits, I look, see the guys, and they're like, "All right, we got to go over here." So we do the 180 and come back. Well, while the tire's getting changed, I'm like, "All right, Chris, when we come out of here, we're going to take a left, and we're going to go this way." Mm-hmm. I didn't know the screen had flipped.
So it
should have come out and went
took
to
a right.
the right.
So it was his fault.
Well,
funny story.
Well, it was both of our faults. But when we pre-ran, we did not pre-ran the sections of going into, we learned a valuable lesson, going into the pits and coming out.
Yeah.
That was our fault.
I was actually editing some shorts, some short videos of the podcast with Chris May. What's funny is he talks about the Lowrance, and you're like, "Man, it's a bass boat thing." He's like, "I just got an iPad with a puck."
Let's just I got to get it back.
Chris, if you got any comments when you see the clips come up on YouTube, make sure you comment, or Instagram. Make sure you comment, because I want to make sure that we're getting the whole truth.
Yeah, it's the truth, Chris.
It's the truth, he says. So. Will brought in, like, I already set him over there, a box of koozies that Residential Grading and Septic LLC. And I think he overshadowed every single guest by bringing an entire bottle of Johnny Walker.
You mean they'd bring a half bottle of something?
Black. I mean, Q2 was the first probably, and he
Some black label.
He brought many.
He did.
But they were testers. But
Samples, yeah.
does this one stay in the studio?
Yes, sir.
See,
It's yours.
Yeah.
You have topped everybody.
I'm already
far.
sampling it. It's some blended scotch. It's really good.
So we'll tell everybody about a little bit about yourself. Where you grew up, how you got into what you're doing now, etc.
Okay. So grew up in Fairplay, South Carolina. Not, many people pass through it going to Georgia, especially in the county. That's at the, I guess you'd say, bottom of the county.
Yeah,
So,
it's a shortcut to Anderson is the way I think about it.
yeah, you blink your eye and you're already through it. But my dad had a farm down there, and he, when I was born, he was a dairy farmer, and things kind of got slow with the dairy farming. And about the time I was about 4 or 5, he kind of got out of that and started into the grading business. And growing up, it wasn't uncommon for me just to get on a tractor or a bulldozer or something and just
Go to work.
Yeah. For any of us that grew up in that, I grew up not far from their farm. For any of us, we learned to drive on a case tractor before we did on a.
And that's what I was going to say too. Is we didn't have many excavators and track skid steers and all that then.
You had a box scrape.
No, we had a 580 Super K extended boom backhoe, 4-wheel drive. Like it was the Mac Daddy. Like I was the king.
Yeah.
So that was my baby. I took care of it and I ran it. And we used to put septic systems on the side of the lake. And when I tell you straight down, I mean those slots were bad. And we're on the side of it with a backhoe and putting gravel systems in back then. And I grew up working hard and kind of earning your keep that way. And so fast forward a little ways, come through high school and get young and dumb. And, I decided that I liked horsepower. So I started building diesel trucks, and I started drag racing down at Atlanta Motor Speedway, or not Atlanta Dragway on Friday nights for the Fast Friday.
Doing some pulls. You do tractor pulls with it too? Or truck pulls, I guess, is what you...
So we would drag race on Friday nights and sled pull on Saturday nights. Yeah. And we did that for 2 or 3 years with the same truck.
Let me give you my perspective on this era of Will Harris. I mean, these trucks look good. The second gen, was a burgundy truck you had? What color was that? Red. Second gen Dodge Cummins. This thing was badass. I mean, it wasn't just a pulling truck because it had a nice wheel. I mean, it's something you could go on date night with too.
I did go on. That's all I had.
Yeah. But it had a stack coming out of the hood. And this is before, to me, this was kind of like the early days of hood stacks being cool, right?
I mean, I did it.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you what, though,
yeah, right.
So I have a trophy. Fastest 1 ton.
Oh, pulling?
Fastest 1 ton at Macon County Dragway.
Were you the only one?
There was a ton of trucks there. Me and Randall decided it'd be a good idea to load up a cooler full of beer, and heard there was a race, booked a real cheap motel, a couple rooms down there beside the Whiskey River.
Oh, yeah.
Dragged on Saturday.
Oh, the Whiskey River. I've been there before.
And then ended our night. But I'd never been on a drag race. And I believe, if my memory serves correct, Jonathan Crane rolled down there separately as well. But I don't know. I don't think he raced. But they called me up, and I was like, I remembered, well, I got to do a burnout because that's what you do when you race, right? My truck was like, and my beer spilled. And so right there at the Christmas tree light, I've got...
Worry about your beer.
I've got beer coming out the door going, oh, gosh, you're going to kick me off the track. So we're gone. Well, I won first place.
Crazy.
Congratulations.
Was it your truck?
Yeah, it was a silver F-350. I picked it up off of Allen Lay years and years ago. But, I was the only 1 ton in the class. Everybody else was Dodges, and they're all 3/4 tons.
Gotcha, yeah.
So they had a 1 ton class. I entered it. I got first, second, and third, all the same.
Awesome.
Yep.
All in the same race. But
yeah, I mean, I went to, I think, maybe a couple truck pulls back in the day. But the one I remember bigger than anything was right here in Westminster. And you were like pulling the sled through the end. You're like, no, I'm not stopping at the end. That sucker, he'd keep going.
So the guy that ran that place down there, he come up to me that night and it was like one of the first or second pulls they ever had. And he said, "You're not going to pull it all the way tonight."
You're not pulling my sled all the way
Right.
back.
He said, you're not going all the way. And I remember there was a Westminster cop sitting down there, at the very end.
Yeah.
Not blocking me by no means, but just at the very end. And I remember backing up and hooking, and I'd always turn my strobe lights on because the kids loved that, and it was just nothing but an attention getter.
Yeah, he put on a good show.
It's
entertainment.
I'm revving the motor and the black smoke's bowling, and I remember looking down that track and I said, if I can just make it to that right there at that cop. Dumped the clutch on it, took off down through there.
Like second gear, third gear or something too.
Yeah, I remember pulling second gear on the high side and 4-wheel drive, and you'd ease off the clutch, and when you saw that boost gauge hit 40 psi, you sidestep off the clutch and
Let it roll.
right foot to the floor. And I remember going down through there, and I was like, if I can just get to that cop, I'll be good. Well, went past the cop, turned left, went out into the parking lot, and finally you could see the guy on that sled just waving his hand, stop, stop, stop.
Pulling him, yep.
Because I had to stop.
I mean, we were on, somehow there was a trailer. I don't know if it was yours or who it was. There was like a high deck flatbed trailer. Parked on the side of
normally
at the
I
end.
drove to the track.
Well, I mean, it was like part of the show. It was part of the event.
Right.
It was parked at the end on the opposite side.
So you could put your seats or your chairs and stuff on?
Yeah, so we were sitting up there, and this joker comes by us, and it's the only Dodge that I've ever seen. Not, this is not saying much because I'm not really in that world. It's the only one that like cammed.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I think it would sit there like a, and I'm like, dude, that's badass.
And what's crazy is it had a stock cam in the engine. And that was
all fuel.
all in the injection pump. A guy in Indiana named Monster Mike made that pump. And
That's his real name.
Monster Mike.
That's all we knew him by.
Alias.
Monster Pump Mike. And
Hey, whatever he did, that's so much
It
badass.
worked.
it would run.
worked.
It would run because you had to buy his pump, his injectors, his crossover tubes, everything to go in it. And at that time,
That was a 24 valve, right?
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the money to spend like that.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to the action part of what I was talking about, though. Like, you're not one that's like, I think I want to do that. It'd be cool. I got this dude, Monster Mike, can do this, and you think about it and talk about it, but then you never do it. Like, you're like, no,
No, we're doing
if I'm going to do it, let's do it.
And we're going to do it right.
Yeah. We're going to put all the stuff in it.
Learn as we go.
So I met that guy when I went to college in Nashville Auto Diesel College in 2005, and he helped me with the truck, but he was a hard person to get to answer the phone, and we were having some issues with the pump and couldn't ever get him to answer the phone, and so I kind of had to cut ties with that guy.
Well, that's kind of
Customer service is everything.
It's funny.
Everything.
It's funny you say that because we're going to really kind of tie this
for sure.
into what you're currently doing in the septic business. And I guess we can go there now. You got something else you want to touch on
You
before we?
want me to carry on until I got where I'm at?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Let's get to know him a little bit.
I guess I interrupted you on that, huh?
No.
So did
you're done.
You're done.
did the diesel stuff, and then 2008 hard times hit, and I was working with my dad when I got home from college. I went back to work for him. We were putting in my main job was all the residential work, and my dad kept saying, we need to go commercial. We need to go commercial. We need to get out there and get the big work. And I'm like,
About like roads and schools and stuff like that.
I'm like, Dad, you're forgetting the little guy. The little guy is they don't pay big, but you're forgetting the little guy.
Yeah, everybody
And
else.
That's where we started. So, long story short, 2008 happened. I had to go get a real job, and I was able to get a job at the nuclear plant, and worked there for 12 years, and wasn't happy at all. It finally, I came home one day and I told my wife, I said, I've got to do something different.
Yeah.
And I worked there from 2008 to 2010 from 2008 to 2020. And I I told her, I said, I got to do something different.
Yeah.
And she said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't want to turn wrenches anymore.
I want to run my own business.
Yeah, but all I know how to do is push dirt and put in septic systems.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, why don't you just do that? And I was like, there's not enough work out there for me. Well, started thinking about it, and just so happens a gentleman walked into the shop at the nuclear plant, and he goes, man, I can't find a good septic company in the upstate. And I was like, well, what do you need done? He's like, I need my septic tank pumped out. And he said, everybody that calls won't either answer the phone or they're 2 or 3 weeks out. I said, all right. So like I was telling you before, I went to Google and I found all the septic pumping companies, called all 13 of them.
Yeah.
3 of them answered the phone, and they were all booked up. So I was like,
There's an opportunity here.
Maybe it's an opportunity here. I could pump septic tanks and work at the nuclear plant.
Same time.
So
Side hustle.
So I started.
That's a big side hustle.
That is a big side
So
hustle.
and we were working 40, 50 hours a week at the nuclear plant, and day shift, night shift, because I was on a swing shift.
Like a 410s, or what was you on?
Well, some weeks you'd work 4 days, some weeks you'd work 3 days, but you might be swinging from days to nights between them.
Yeah.
So it was really hard on your body. And I found the pump truck that I wanted from a guy in straight up Amish country in Pennsylvania. Went up there, bought the truck. Me and my buddy Clayton drove it home. Never pumped a septic tank in my life. And my wife was my first customer.
Hey, let me pump your tank for you.
Yeah, let me pump your tank for you and critique the what out of me so that I know that I'm not messing up.
See, that's what I'm talking about, action. He went and bought a truck, never pumped anything in his life.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only did he buy a truck, it was in 6 states over, or whatever, how many states that is.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So then I pumped my mom's. I pumped family members.
Yeah.
And I told them, I said, hey, critique me if you see something I do wrong. Tell me.
Yeah.
I'll be glad to fix it. I'm not taking offense to it. So that led into basically I was working at the nuclear plant and pumping tanks, and then I kept my install license, and you have to have a pumper's license as well. So I had both of them, and another guy walked into the shop that day and says, I'm building a new house, and the septic contractor can't get here in time. Can you help me out?
He's like, I got an inspection coming for a
Well, it was just waiting on the septic to and it was a mobile home, but he was waiting on the septic to get his CO so that he could move into the mobile home. And I was like, well, let me see the permit. So he laid it. I said, shoot, we could do that. I'm off on Monday. You want to do it Monday? He's like, yeah. Monday went over. I called my dad. And I was like, hey, can I borrow your track code? Dad was like, well, yeah. So I went and borrowed Dad's track code, and I went and put that system in. And I mean, the guy was so thankful. He was like, I can't believe that you helped me do this, and I had fun doing it.
Yeah.
And so I kept my nose straight, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So back to what I was telling you, my dad kept wanting to go commercial, and I kept wanting to, stay residential. So that's where my name came from, was residential grading and septic.
That's pretty good. I had a really smart person tell me one time, sell to the classes and you'll live with the masses. But if you sell to the masses, you'll live with the classes.
Yep, that's a fact.
Yeah. The thing that's tough, though, and this is probably where you excel, is you have to, back to what you said in the beginning, you called 13 different companies, you got 3 people to call you back. And out of those 3 people, you probably got one that may have gave you decent customer service. Right? I don't know that for a fact.
Right,
Because you didn't follow through. But, if you're going to stick, the thing is, it's lacking so much in residential is the customer service, is the fact that you're going to show up when you tell them you're going to show up.
That's right.
The callback, hell, before we started the podcast, you had 3 phone calls out here right outside. Like,
we had to get him to turn his phone off just so we could get through the podcast. Yeah.
But I think that's the value in what you do. It's not the truck. It's not the pumping. It's none of that stuff. It's the fact that you care enough to actually call people back and show up when you tell them you're going to show up. And
I will wait if it's not an emergency. If I don't have poo in the yard, right? I'll wait 3 weeks
to have
as
somebody,
long as I've got good communication.
Yeah.
right? You communicate with me. That's great. Let me know.
I strive to have 100% communication, because when you call me and I tell you, hey, I'm going to do it then.
Yeah.
If something comes up, it happens.
Right.
But communicate. Don't just leave that person out there wondering, I wonder if they're going to show up.
That's right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing is to, you know, we've talked about this in the past too. Like sometimes when you make the little, you know, something comes up, I call them mistakes. It's not necessarily a mistake, but when you
Unexpected.
hiccups, when you address those hiccups the proper way, you have a customer for life. Mm-hmm. I think it's more.
Right.
I think
That's
it's
right.
more valuable when you address the hiccup than you actually just being a good.
Their customer service is everything.
Yeah, but sometimes a mistake too within that customer service gives you a bigger opportunity to have a customer for life when you make it right. Right?
Because you're building relationships before you even get at the job.
Well,
so you're judged before you even pull in the driveway based on the communication you've had with your customer.
And what you're telling them is,
You're important.
good
to me.
or bad, I'm going to take care of you.
You're important to me.
Right. When they see that it didn't go exactly as planned and you took care of them, that's where you get the customer for life, because they're like, he's got me good or bad.
Well, that was just
when
like
it's
that
good.
lady we were talking about. You know, I was talking on the phone when you were standing there out there. You know, she was like, you pumped my tank yesterday and my tank's half full. And I was like, well, ma'am, you've used it. And she was like, well, it's not supposed to be full. She was confused on how a septic tank actually even works, you know.
Yeah, you want it full of water is different than full of stuff.
Septic.
Solids, yep.
Yeah, because the water should overflow into what the leach lines. I mean, you know more about that than I do, but there's a natural draining system that yeah.
So, Will, after you bought your first truck and you're already at Duke Power, what was the time frame before you said, I'm out?
So I had a very good boss man at Oconee Nuclear Station. His name is Tab Hedrick. Super nice guy. Probably he's a brother to me now. He kept telling me, he said, you'll know when the time's right. Because I kept telling him, I don't know when I'm going to leave. You know, I don't know if I want to leave, because it was a good job. I made good money and I was at home with my kids. I didn't have to travel. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to work for a place like this. I just felt trapped. And he kept telling me, he's like, you will know when the time's right. So I just, like I said, kept my nose down and went to work. And before too long, I was making more money pumping septic tanks than I was at the nuclear station.
That's when the time becomes right.
And I was having more fun pumping septic tanks.
There you go.
And you know, because I can remember I would be on night shift. I'd get off at 6 o'clock in the morning. I would go straight home as fast as I could, get straight into bed, and I would wake up at 10 o'clock on the dot.
Ready to rock and roll.
No.
No.
You're done.
But I'd wake up at 10 o'clock and I would I was like, I've got to go to work because I've got these people that I've already committed to.
Yeah.
And my first appointment was at 12 o'clock. So I got up at 10. I got, you know, because I live in Pendleton, you know, so a lot of my work is in Oconee area, Seneca, Walhalla. So that gave me some time to get here. So I would drive over, you know, and I would work from the first appointment at 12 o'clock. My second appointment was at 2 o'clock. And if I could squeeze another one in, I would do it if it was already like dug up or something.
Yeah.
And then I would turn around and drive back home. I remember I would pull in the yard, cut the truck off, run inside, get my shower, and really just give a kiss to my wife and my kids, and then back in the car, and I am hightailing it to be back at a nuclear station by 6 o'clock.
For your second job.
Work all night, wake up and do it again. And
It's crazy.
And I was like, I am killing myself.
You had to know the end was soon though, because you don't kill yourself like that, not knowing that there's
it's just the drive. It's the drive. I mean, you focused and want something better for yourself is what I was after, because I was at the nuclear station. I was miserable, and that's what made me happy.
Yeah.
And I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy walking up and meeting a total stranger. And sometimes you don't know it, but sometimes you're the only person they have that they can talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I've had older ladies cry on my shoulder because I'm coming to save their problem.
Right.
You know? And doesn't mean sometimes people are like, well, whatever, but it matters to me.
Yeah, I get it.
So let's pause right there for a second. So what I'm hearing is money's not your motivator. Probably time or
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction of family, of helping, of
Controlling your own destiny.
I like helping. I do enjoy that. It's not the money. It does help because we have to.
Of course.
You're running a business.
You're running
right.
a business.
That's right.
You can't.
You got overhead like everybody else.
I mean, our listeners are going to understand that. Like, I would think that at this point, as much as we talk about business, they get it. They get it. Yeah. So
money's not my motivator either. Like, of course, we have to have money to pay for the food on the table and keep the wives happy. The wife happy.
wives.
I meant
plural. We don't live in Utah.
But time is my personal motivator. Like, I'd much rather do passive income.
Until Will calls you and says, "Hey, let's buy a plane."
Yeah.
Then you're like, "Oh, money matters now."
Or call you and say, "Hey, come meet me at the store. Let's go ride around in the snow."
I'm flying one day and I snapped a picture or something, and Will's like, "Hey, did you buy a plane?" I was like, "Not yet." And he's like, "Well, I've been thinking about it." And I said, "Well, you can write this thing off." He's like, "Don't tell me that. Where you at?"
Let's buy a plane.
Are we going shopping? But all right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk more of the grading part of residential septic and grading with Will Harris.
Let's face it, shopping for insurance can be time-consuming. When it comes to your auto and home insurance needs, make things simple and trust your Allstate experts. They will help you get the coverage that fits your needs while helping you bundle your auto and home. Bundling saves money, sure, but it also saves you time. So you can enjoy the things that matter most even more. Contact Clemson Allstate agent Shane Smith at 864-654-1047 today for a free personalized insurance proposal. Allstate, are you in good hands?
We're back with Will Harris at Residential Grading and Septic. So, Will, right before the break, we were talking about transitioning from your day job to your side hustle, making that true entrepreneurship, full-time gig. What were some of the hurdles? Obviously, the first one I can think of is you left your security blanket, right? Because Duke is a great place to work, employee or contractor. They employ.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that was my forever home. When I got hired, I was like, yes, I don't have to look for another job.
Yeah, most of the guys are there that work there, men and women both. It's like a family. Whether you're at Catawba or Oconee or wherever you're at, everybody in that clique is in that clique.
Yeah, and they're typically lifers too.
Yeah, typically because it's such a good place to work.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have what we have in Oconee without Duke Power.
That's exactly true.
So other than your security net, your security blanket, so to speak, what was some of the other hurdles or what kept you up at night during your first year? Or more importantly, what kept your wife up at night?
She, the security blanket. Okay. So if I left Duke Power to go do this for a living, what if I fail?
Which is a big one that a lot of people struggle with.
What if I fail? But then I look back and I've never failed at anything in my life. And the reason why is because my mom was always the person to push. My mom was always the person to, hey, if you see somebody struggling, you go over there and help them. You don't just watch. You just don't think about it. Just go do it.
Move, yep.
So that's kind of, I was just scared to fail.
Yeah.
I really was. And
I mean, that's real, man. Everybody goes through that. I think the value in that though is who cares? Because what's more scary than being afraid to fail is when you're older, worrying, like,
what if I didn't do it?
What if I didn't do it?
right.
And you got kids at this point, right? You've already
right.
established a family and a new home, 2 kids.
My wife stays at home, and I was working at Duke, and what if I failed? Because it's not just me.
That's right.
I've got 4 other people behind me.
Right.
And it was a very big commitment, but put my faith in the Lord, and
Amen.
Hey, it paid off.
Where they said, with God, all things are possible.
That's right. That's
No
right.
doubt.
The thing is, I'm guilty of the same things, right? I overanalyze a lot of things. I think you're probably, out of the 3 of us, maybe the least over-analytical as far as failure and that kind of stuff goes. Maybe it has to do with kids and family. I don't know.
Until I got married. And then
Well, that's what I'm saying.
When I got married, I realized that if I fail, we fail.
Yeah.
And so, but I'll still jump off the cliff and figure out how to build a parachute
But
or an airplane on the way down.
The thing is, I look at though, and you can kind of chime in on this. Failure, it's not the end though. Like
No, it's not.
You buy a truck, you try it don't work. You sell the truck.
Don't be scared.
You get another job at Duke or somewhere else.
Well, you don't learn if you don't fail.
That's right.
Right.
But the thing is, 100% is you don't succeed if you don't try.
That's right. You'll never know if you don't try.
You don't ever know, and you'll regret it one day.
That's right.
Back to, I don't know what episode it was I talked about, but one of my favorite verses in a song is, regret is the ghost that haunts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, if you didn't do it and you thought about it forever and ever, and you're like, man,
That's why
I wish.
That's why I do multiple different things in different places, right? And so I did it. Now, I didn't. Wasn't. It's not what defines me.
We talked about this on the last episode. Your album on Spotify.
That's still in his CD player.
Yep.
Which is great.
In my truck. Yep.
So tell me about your marketing strategies. There's a story about you at a Christmas parade that I've heard. I think it went viral on the internet. So tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Man, it was just something that fell in my lap. And, when you get into the septic pumping business, the first thing out of their mouth is Cousin Eddie.
Shitter's full.
Christmas
Vacation.
Yeah.
National Lampoon's Christmas
There you
Vacation. You wash it all day at Christmas every year. So
On repeat.
on repeat. Well, no, it like DirecTV automatically does it. It's just it's on all day.
Gotcha.
So the Westminster Christmas Parade was coming up, and you're a new business.
Yeah,
People don't know you.
How are we going to make an impact?
So how are we going to make an impact? And I got on Amazon, and I ordered my robe, and I ordered my hat, and I ordered, of course, didn't have a problem getting a beer, and I filled up a 5-gallon bucket full of Tootsie Rolls.
Nice.
And I put them on the back of I've got a little mini excavator on the back of my pump truck there. Buddy of mine drove me through the parade, and I was throwing out those Tootsie Rolls. And every once in a while, one of those Tootsie Rolls had my business card tied to it. So I would try to, like if I was throwing out to a family, I would grab a handful and try to get one card and throw it. Well, after that parade, everybody was calling Cousin Eddie.
Yeah.
I mean,
So you saw the impact immediately.
Absolutely.
So let me get this straight. And
I went from who is that jackass on the back of a pump truck to
Shitter's full.
To we went from pumping 2 and 3 tanks a day to pumping 6, 7, 8 tanks a day.
So I don't know if we can do this in post-production, but there is a photo or a short video of him behind this new Peterbilt pump truck. Mack pump truck. I mean, it's sharp.
Yeah, I will say.
Got an excavator on the back and him in a robe with a 5-gallon bucket and his hat, he plays the part.
And it takes 6 beers to go through the Westminster Christmas Parade because at the bottom of that bucket was beer. And I would just reach real deep through the Tootsie Rolls to get to the beer.
So back to the action part of our conversation, because I want to kind of touch on the truck itself, because it's got to be the nicest pump truck in this county.
Oh, for sure.
It's
by
super
far.
nice. But like he just didn't do it. He's talking about he went and bought a truck before he ever pumped a septic. Mm-hmm. Not only did he buy a truck, it's the nicest truck.
No. That's not. Oh,
that's not the one you bought. Okay.
No. Baby steps.
Because I was
Baby
like,
steps.
damn, dude, he just dove in.
Nope. So when I started this, I wanted to. I did not want to have to go to the bank. I did not. But on my first pump truck, I had to go to the bank, and I sat across the desk from this guy. Didn't even know him, but he could see my bank account. He could tell that I paid my bills.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I'm working at the nuclear plant. I said, and I have a vision that I can do this. And he was like, well, what are you trying to borrow? And I said, I need $30,000. And he goes, you think you can make it? And I said, I know I can make it.
Yeah.
And I said, but I will pay this off as quick as I can. I promise, because I don't want the overhead.
That's right.
So 3 months later, it was paid for. And
that was a truck you got in Pennsylvania.
That was the truck I got in Pennsylvania.
Not the truck that I've seen though.
Right.
Okay.
So then, we were hand digging tanks. We didn't have a micro excavator. I'm fat. I was getting wore out. So I needed, it was $20,000 to buy a Bobcat E10 from Bobcat of Greenville.
Which is the coolest thing. I think we'll touch on that in a second.
So my first plan was I was going to hook a trailer behind the truck, just a utility trailer. I'd show up, park at the top of the driveway, unhook the trailer, or, unload the tractor, unhook the trailer, back the truck down, pump the septic tank, pull it back up, hook everything. Well, you do that 5 or 6 times a day, it gets old. God, it gets old.
I can see that.
Well, I was at a race one day, and I was talking to a good friend of mine, and I was telling him that I had bought me a pump truck, and I was saving my money up to go buy this E10 micro excavator. And he just looked over at me. He goes, well, how much is it? And I said, it's $20,000. And he goes, how much money do you have? And I said, well, I just started, so I've got, $3,000 or $4,000. And he said, well, man, he said, I tell you what. He said, I don't want anything in return. He said, I'm going to wire you that money. And I was like, well, what? He said, I'm going to wire you that money. He said, I want you to go buy that tractor. He said, you figure out what you can pay every month. And his wife was on board about this. Super great people. And they took a chance with me, and I paid it off in 2 months.
Yeah.
And
no interest. They weren't asking for anything. They just wanted to help you out.
They said, they don't want my name. They don't want nothing.
Yeah.
They said, we want to see you succeed, because they knew I could do it. I guess. I don't know. But I bought the tractor. And then I started that, it started amplifying. I was pumping 3 to 4 tanks a day, and, I was dragging a trailer around.
Yeah.
Well, then I was like, well, what can make me more efficient? So I started talking to my neighbor who was a welder, and I was like, can you build a rack on the back of this thing to where I don't have to have a trailer, and I can just pull it up on there, and when I get at the job and I need it, I can take one strap off and throw 2 ramps down, and I'm backing it off, and I'm working. Because in this business, time is money.
Yeah, and space too. I mean, like trying to turn around and.
Well, it was just, more work with the trailer. Yeah. But the cool thing about the trailer is you can carry more stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, with the rack, you can't. So we designed a rack and put it on the back of the truck, and that really helped us. Well, then,
so give every perspective on it's listening or whatever. The rack he's talking about, it's kind of like, what would you call like a hitch haul setup?
It's kind of like a platform.
Or one of those
it's not on reach because the tractor weighs 2,500
pounds.
Right. But it's kind of like a deer hauler that goes in the back of a reach.
Yeah, that's the
but you drive your mini excavator on.
Same
it's a hitch haul.
But it's a lot heavier.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it fits perfect. It looks like it's made to be there.
Yep. He said, I'm going to come there to your house, and don't worry, I got the mini X behind the truck. And I was like, well, you're not going to be able to turn that big truck in my driveway. He's like, no, it's behind my truck. It's attached to my truck.
It's attached, yeah.
He pulled in, or his driver pulled in. I'm like, oh, no, shit. Like literally.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing.
All right, sorry. I kind of wanted to give the
perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective.
The vision.
You're done.
So.
Wind it up.
Yeah, we... I ran that truck for a long time, and then I was like, well, maybe I need an employee. And at that time, I was like, I've been doing this the whole time and working at the nuclear plant. And I was like, maybe I'll just put it on Facebook and see if somebody hits on it. Well, a guy that really lives 2 miles down the road from me, he sends me a text message. He said, man, I'd love to help you. I said, okay. So we started talking, and thing about this is he had no experience with septic. I was gaining experience, and so he came to work for me, and I was still working at the nuclear plant. So he would work a schedule with me, which made a ton of difference because we were getting twice as much done in that little bit of window that I had to work that day. Well, that evolved into me turning my notice in at the nuclear plant, because I'm like, it's time, because I'm enjoying this more. I'm making more money.
I'm employing somebody.
No, I don't have benefits doing this, but happiness means something to me. So turned my notice in, and I gave them like a month notice. And I remember walking out that day, and I walked out the doors and I was getting ready to go to the walkway to go to the parking lot. And I turned back around and looked at the front doors and I was like, did I just mess up?
Yeah.
And I just turned right back around. I said, nope, I didn't mess up.
I'm
I'm going this way.
Huge weight lifted off, but also probably scary as hell.
Well, at that point in time, I was swing shift between, pumping. I was exhausted. Yeah. I was really physically, mentally exhausted. And I mean, I was basically building my business and working at the nuclear plant. And then when I stepped out to, today's my last day and tomorrow I got a job to do. And I made that commitment. And I told my wife, I said, she's a business administration degree. I said, you're going to be my secretary. You're going to handle the taxes and the payroll and
bookings, all that stuff.
And you're going to take care of the kids. And I'm going to work. I said, I don't know any other thing to do, but just nose down and get busy.
Get it done.
I don't know if you want to say it. You certainly don't have to. I love the story about the people who gave you a chance.
Yep.
Everybody sitting at this table, somebody has bet on them. Mm-hmm. Somebody's bet on you at some point. Oh, yeah. Obviously, we just heard the story. Somebody bet on me. Any chance that I get to give back, I don't hesitate.
Yeah. That's right.
If I believe in the person,
but you got to trust them.
We're going to do that.
You've had some big bets on you.
That's right.
You're done.
And we have succeeded.
Yeah. When I wonder though. This is what I wonder. This is going to be off topic just a little bit. I wonder if the fact that you knew that it was a huge bet on you put a sense of responsibility that made you
100%.
That kicked you into action.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but
right? Same thing with you.
You got to be faithful to that person because that person took a chance on you. You don't want to let them down.
Well, and I also wonder with Jared too, especially in his younger years, where there was a moment where he maybe got to a point where he felt like people didn't believe in him.
Sure.
And then you find that one person that truly does believe in you, and you're like, I'm gonna fucking kill this.
Yeah, and we did, right? But I'll tell you, I heard this the other day. There are two reasons that you won't succeed in life. Two. One is you don't know the right people. Number two is you're misinformed.
Yeah.
Because if you know the right people, this happens.
Yeah.
You build relationships. I'm huge, like every podcast, build relationships. Yep. There was a relationship built before that phone call ever took place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or that phone call wouldn't have taken place.
Well, the misinformed part could be also that you don't believe in yourself.
No, that's right.
I think whoever helped him out knew that he believed in himself. Mm-hmm. They seen it within the racing, within whatever it was. They knew. They're like,
well, they also, when I told them, I was like, man, I'm buying a pump truck, and they're like, huh? I'm like, I'm buying a pump truck. Well, then the next time they saw me, it might be a month. Well, they say, hey,
how's it going?
How's it going? Man, I pumped 10 tanks last month. That doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're first starting out, you got to crawl before you
I pumped 10 tanks and I got a full-time job.
Right. Well, then the next time you see them, hey, man, how's it going? Man, I pumped 10 tanks last week.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, damn.
You're growing.
You're growing.
At that point, I would have been like, so
how do I get equity?
What else you need?
How do I get equity in this?
And I don't want to pay back. I want interest, or I want equity, right? I want equity in residential.
What's cool about it all is those people that took a chance with me periodically will just call me out of the blue. Hey, how's it going? Mm-hmm. Because they know they invested in me. They didn't make money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I
paid them back, but at the same time, they care.
If I had to bet,
and they're not even racing anymore.
If I had to bet, those people had the same thing happen to them, which is why they basically
did. They did.
100%.
That's why they passed the favor on.
They owned a multi-million-dollar glass company in Atlanta, and they pretty much told me if it was a skyscraper in Atlanta, they put the glass in it, and they started off bottom of the barrel, just scraping by.
Somebody gave them a chance.
And just recently, they had called and told me that they had sold that glass business for a very good, and I mean, they're 45 years old and fully retired.
Living in the reserve?
I get it.
Can we have them on the podcast?
I get it. So how long before somebody's running residential and you're going to be full-time off-road racing?
No, not happening.
So can we talk about
off-road racing? Is a privilege. Mm-hmm. Okay, If residential doesn't do well,
You're not racing.
the racing's not going to happen. But sometimes we get burnt out on the off-road racing because it takes to compete right now, and it's not going to change. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah. It's a commitment.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like the local dirt track guys, they would work a normal job. They'd come home every evening. They would work on their cars. They'd get racing on Friday or Saturday nights. Come home the next week, they would repeat it, right? There's so much work that gets involved. So I'm having a hard time with maintaining the business and being a daddy and racing.
So daddy comes first before business, right?
That's exactly right. So I enjoy hanging out with my wife and my children. The business I'm not going to say it's not going to take care of itself, but if I need to step away for 5 days, I can.
That's right.
But I also have 2 very good employees, and that's all I want. I don't want any more employees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I may add one more, but that's it.
We're not buying 3 trucks and painting their logo on the side. So
we don't need it.
Tell me what residential looks like 3 to 5 years from now. Where do you see the company and yourself?
I think I want to leave it the same size that it is because we have maintained. There's no debt. We have done very well with maintaining what we have. An older gentleman once told me, "Keep it small and keep it all."
That's a great one.
So with that,
Say that again, Will. I like that.
Yeah, that was good.
keep it small and keep it all. So with saying that, a lot of people, they'll say like, man, how do you get so much? How do you do all that with only 2 people? It's efficiency. And it also boils back to those relationships that you were talking about. There's been times that, I have, my pump truck has been stuck and I don't know who to call, but I can go through my phone and say, hey, where you at? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, where you at? Well, just so happens I'm nearby.
Can you come pull me
Can
out?
you come pull me out? I mean, Brad Freeman runs a dump truck. He has pulled me out, I bet you 4 or 5 times this year.
You know how to fix that, right? Stop getting stuck.
Well, it's hard to do sometimes.
Put a winch on that thing.
Well, I've thought about that too, but that'd be a killer winch.
So residential stays the same size. Residential grading and septic stays the same size.
Yes, sir.
Is there another venture that you may get into, or another side hustle that you're looking at?
I've got my eyes on something else the same way that I did with my septic work. I don't know if I want to venture out into that because that doubles the load. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy right now. If we want to, if my family and I want to take off and go trail riding in the mountains in the side-by-sides for a couple of days.
Take off and do it.
I mean, yeah, there's planning around that.
Yeah.
A lot to be said to be content.
Yeah, I mean, Jared talks about this all the time. It's like, at what point do you quit trying to scale up and just enjoy what you got,
Well, I'm at that point. I don't have anything to prove to nobody. As long as that phone keeps ringing, and as long as I'm helping people, I'm just moving forward. Yeah. If we don't have but 4 tanks to pump next week, I'm okay with it.
See, I love to see that from you guys because I have a hard time with that. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm always trying to scale the next level. And I mean, me and you've had multiple conversations off, the podcast about this. And you're just like, what was the guest that was like, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
Bobby's brother?
James. Yeah. No, that's right. So, I say that, but then last week we're looking at a multi-million-dollar deal. Like, it has to be
the right
thing.
Yeah.
Right. For me to jump back in.
Well, and I think Will be the same way. If an opportunity come across, he's saying he's good, but if the right opportunity came along and it made really good sense, he would be like,
most of us would.
Yeah. So with the work that I do, it's hard to find good, dependable help.
Not just the work that you do, blue collar period.
Well, right? Exactly. But imagine trying to get somebody, hey, what are you going to do today? Well, we're going to go over and pump some shit.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Well, you pay what, $60 an hour? Like, you taking applications?
That's the thing, though. The guys that I have helping, I am very blessed, and I try my best to tell them every day I appreciate them.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it's a tough business. You know, the thing is, though, is I think that's an advantage for you too. Because I was actually yesterday ran into a guy listening to the podcast. Shout out to Chad. He was like, "Yeah, man, I've been listening. It's good summer listening for me. You know, I'm mowing the grass, whatever." He's like, "Who's going to be on the podcast this week?" I said, "Will Harris." He's like, "Septic?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's funny you said that because I just had a guy come out and pump my septic the other day."
Was it Will?
No, it wasn't Will. It was somebody else.
What?
But he was
Chad.
But Chad was like, "Man, I had to like dig it up myself. I had to like the guy wouldn't do anything. I had to do it all." And he come out and pumped it and then charged me a crazy amount of money. And he's like, the first thing I thought about was, man, I need to start my own business doing this. But the good thing is, it'll take about a minute and a half, and you're like, I don't know if I want to do that business, right?
But that's why you can charge what you charge.
Well, and there's part of that where you can charge it because listen, if you need it pumped, there's a good chance
the price doesn't matter.
I had Will do some work for me not too long ago, and I needed it done now,
Yesterday.
you know, and I paid him for that convenience.
That's right.
Pennies on the dollar.
I don't even know what he did when he was there.
Pennies on the dollar.
I wasn't paying him for that. I was paying him the fact that he
Answered the phone.
answered the phone.
Hey, man.
Showed up.
And, well, at first you were like, "Oh, man, I'm busy. I don't know if I can make it today." I'm like, "Cool, no problem."
I'm calling somebody else. No, the hell no, you're not.
Stop right there.
You're done.
Well, I didn't say I was calling somebody else, but he was like, maybe tomorrow, maybe, whatever. I'll try to get out there as soon as I can. An hour goes by, he calls me back. He's like, "Dude, I got an opening. I'll be out there."
No, I said I made something happen for you.
Oh, is that what it was?
See.
I made something happen. See,
See, it's one of those things where you've got your day planned.
yeah.
And I got to be at this stop at this time, and this stop at this time, and this stop at this time. Kyle Voss calls and said, "Hey, man, I got to have you right now." Just off the top of your head, Kyle, I can't be there right now.
Yeah.
But when you hang that phone up and you go back and start looking at that calendar and you call the next stop or you call the next two stops and say, "Look, I've got an emergency I need to go take care of." Back to communication. Do you mind if I go take care of this guy and then come to you? And if they say, no, because most of the time they're like, "Absolutely,
Whatever.
go take care of him. We're good with it." Well, then I call Kyle back. Kyle, I'm on the way. What? Yep. All right, man.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Is your business recession proof?
I think so.
If toilet paper is recession proof,
I'm telling you, when you flip
the septic side has to be recession proof.
maybe it might go down a little bit, but
So
when you flip the lever on the toilet and that sucker gurgles, I don't care if you're making money or not, you're calling somebody.
The new install stuff, like the new construction houses, of course, that would stop. But
And what's your percentage? Are you 80% new septic tank, 20% pumping and repair?
the other way.
It's 20 on the new.
Yeah.
Which is a good position to be
And
in.
80%.
Well, I wouldn't say 20. Let's say 60-40.
Okay. Yeah.
So like we install 3 to 4 new systems a week,
Okay.
but we also do 3 to 4 repairs a week, and we pump on average about around here about 25, maybe 20 tanks a week.
Yeah.
And then for everybody listening, because I know this is an odd question, what is the best thing that a consumer in a home can do to keep you from coming out there? How do you maintain a good septic?
So it's like your engine in your car. If you want that engine to last you a long time, you're going to change the oil on time. Okay? And I'm not saying that you have to pump it on time. But if you can keep the chemicals and the grease and the all the bad stuff out of that septic tank, and you maintain it, you pump it regular.
Is that the Rid-X? Like, is that a thing?
Well, the thing is, too, I think you have to explain how a septic tank works. It only drains off fluid.
Right.
So any solids
Liquid.
that are in there, liquid, it's only going to disperse the liquid back into the ground. Right. The solids are going to stay.
Yep.
So the least amount of solids you
So
can put
like
into that thing?
like wipes, they're flushable, right? They're not dissolvable. So when you flush wipes, they stay in that septic tank. If they don't stay in that septic tank, they float into the drain field. Next thing you know, they've coated that drain field.
And now it doesn't drain.
Now it doesn't work. Guess what? We're getting to put a drain field in.
So pump often, is that every 5 years?
Three.
Need a beer?
Yeah, I need a beer.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. 3 to 5 years. So 5 people every 3 years. 2 people every 5 years.
Well, I'm about 15 years overdue.
I thought I just did yours.
You located it.
Yours goes in the lake.
Yeah.
No, it
Under the dock. Under the dock.
No, we don't.
Did we not? No, we didn't pump it because
Just located
yeah,
it.
it's under
I got to
the-
pull my driveway up in
Yeah.
April. We're going to re-pour the whole thing. And at that time,
Okay.
you'll be back up.
Is it under the driveway?
It's weird, but yeah,
That
I think
sucks.
so. Any advice for anybody not wanting to get into your industry, but that
So-
wants to jump off that cliff?
So let's go back to say you're buying a new home. When you buy a new home, you don't know where the septic's at. The previous owner probably doesn't know where the septic's at. That's a telltale sign that it's never been pumped, or it hasn't been pumped in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, some people move from house to house, you know, within a couple of years. Well, when you go to buy a house, I encourage heavily that you have a septic inspection done, because you know the condition of it when you move in. Because when we go to do an inspection, it is pumped out and it is verified. There's an inlet baffle. There's a clean out between the house and the tank. Of course, we locate the tank.
You know the size of the tank because the old ones are smaller, right?
Well, no, generally the older ones, when I say older, like the
concrete.
60s, yeah, the homemade ones. And the baffles are on it, because if the baffles are not on it, more chances of a bad drain field is going to be,
Yeah.
you know, you're going to be spending some money. So,
Oh, look at that service.
yeah, thank you, man.
Weston Co. Tap Room is
Oh,
on
yeah.
it. And Jared's
Good job,
Okay.
Jared.
How many times has that happened? Hey, I'm gonna
Never.
I'm gonna save all that.
Thank you, Liz.
I'm good, thank you.
So I encourage people, because we get a call a lot where I haven't been in my house but 4 days and there is septic in my shower.
That's bad.
Okay.
Well, okay, so
It's not a glamorous business. We never said that.
No.
you know, so we get there, we find the septic tank, we pull the lid off. Septic tank's 100% full. We go to the outlet side, we dig up the outlet, we pump it down, and we verify if the liquid is pumping back from the ground back into the tank.
Yep.
Generally, that's a tell. You know, so the pressure out here in the drain field is higher than what's in the tank. So when you pump it down and it starts pumping back into the tank, that's a telltale
It's
sign
not
that your
leaching
drain
in.
field, right?
Yeah, it's not leaching properly.
Or if we pump it down and the water is not pumping back in, that could be roots that are clogged up in the line. There's roots that are clogged up, you know. So that's one of the ways that we look at it. But we encourage people that when they find their septic tank, that they install a riser. The riser will always tell where the septic tank is. And when we come back out to do a maintenance,
So cheaper cost.
there's no digging.
Yeah.
You
Cheaper,
know,
which
and it's going to back up on Christmas morning.
Shitter's full, Clark.
Live, Eddie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any advice you'd give to an entrepreneur that's got a day job but thinks they want to jump off that cliff to be, risk it all?
Oh boy,
Could be any industry. Like, what's the
Yeah.
one thing
you better have a good work ethic.
work?
I'll give you
that's
that.
a good one.
I'll give you that.
Work ethic is number one. Like anything else that you would just say, hey, this is one thing I didn't think that would. I mean, obviously we could go back to customer service or relationships. Like you've talked a lot about that. I think that's really core to anybody starting a new business. Anything else?
You got to try it.
You got to go.
You got to go, but
No regrets.
don't burn that bridge. Do not burn that bridge where you're at to try it, and then
Good call.
That's great.
then because the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence because there could be septic problems over there, and that grass is greener.
And it still needs cut.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. It's
You ever-
green.
you
It's
ever heard
green because it needs to be pumped.
You ever heard the saying of water your own lawn? Don't worry about what's on the other side
exactly
of the
right.
fence.
That's right.
Because
Kinda
that's the safe play for 99% of Americans.
Yeah.
Will, thank you so much for your time today. You've been a great guest, informative at most.
Where can they find you at, Will?
Telephone number 864-710-9158. That's the best way.
Say it again.
864-710-9158.
There you go.
Does that spell Uncle Eddie? You got a Facebook, website account?
Got Facebook, Instagram, the whole 9 yards.
And it's residential grading and septic?
It is residential grading and septic. Phone number is by far the best.
Perfect.
Listen, if you call Will,
I'm old school.
if you call Will and you need him, and you heard of him here on the podcast, tell him.
Yeah, man. I
And
appreciate
he'll
that.
give you a free koozie.
Yeah.
I was going to say 50% off. But
where
I ain't
is
saying
the
that.
koozie?
Yeah, don't say that.
What's the koozie at?
Yeah.
Shitter's full, Clark. See, he gets these fancy koozies.
I'm telling you, what a great marketing tool.
All right.
Guys, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Will. We're going to have you on later on.
Yeah,
again.
man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See ya.